Let's get to Arsenal now, that it could be a busy window for them. First of all, Dan, what do they need?
The obvious one is a goal scorer, a striker. I'm a massive fan of Jesus, but I feel he's more of an enabler than he is a goal scorer. I think if you look back at Jesus' time at Manchester City, actually his best season came the year they won the league and he played wide right. That was Jesus' best season in a Manchester City shirt. He's gone to Arsenal almost as the main man, and like I say, I think he's a really, really good footballer, but he's not really got that killer instinct in the box, and I think that's what the Arsenal fans crave. Now, you could argue that player with the killer instinct in the box is Eddie Nketiah, but I'm not sure he's of the level of a title-challenging team without sounding too disrespectful. And what I found with Nketiah, like Kweku said earlier, if he starts a game, he'll tend to score Nketiah, but if he's coming on as a sub, he struggles to make an impact. It's probably the same, you could say, maybe, of Jesus as well. So Arsenal fans will be desperate for that goal scorer, but I also think the drop-off at centre-back is quite big. If Gabriel or Saliba are out, I think if Kivior comes in, he's not quite at the level of those two. So you could argue they need another centre-back in the equation as well. Obviously, Timber was probably signed to be someone who could fill in across the back four, and he's been injured for the entirety of the season. So I think there's a couple of spaces Arsenal can look at. But like other teams, they're probably looking at needing to move someone on if they're to facilitate their squad and make it bigger. All
right, Quake, if we look back at their summer signings, how would you rate it? Arteta had a lot of praise for his transfer business in general.
Yeah, it's been a long time since Arsenal signed a dud. You'd probably say the last signing that didn't work out at Arsenal was Nicolas Pepe. Apart from that, they've been pretty astute in the transfer market. You look at the business they've done in the summer. Declan Rice, I think everybody can agree, we've all put him in our team this season so far. He's been a great signing for them. Kai Havertz has come into the fore now, and he's scoring some goals as well. And it remains to be seen where he eventually ends up playing for Arsenal, but a player that Arteta's got a clear plan for. Unfortunately, Julian Timber got an injury in the first game of the season against Nottingham Forest. He looked really good in the Community Shield game against Man City. And David Raya, there are still questions. So it's been a mixed bag in terms of the players that Arsenal brought in over the summer, but overall, with the big money signing being Declan Rice, the missing piece per se for Arsenal to go and really challenge City properly for the Premier League, I think Arsenal can be happy with the business they did over the summer.
Dave, I'm just going to throw this message we've had on hashtag Transfer Talk on X to you, Dave, here, actually. We've had a tweet in from an actor, Gary Webster, who's in EastEnders, the Bill Minder, Hollyoaks. He's an Arsenal fan. And he's tweeted in saying, to see Ramsdale in that group of players that could leave Arsenal is maddening. Great player, even better person, essential to squad morale. Listen to this. If Arteta lets him go in favour of Raya, it's Arteta out. For me, that's quite a strong opinion there, but it's clear that Aaron Ramsdale is obviously, certainly from this fan in particular, is loved at the club.
Yeah, and I mean, we discussed it in the summer whether, Raya was an upgrade, a proper upgrade on Aaron Ramsdale, and we discussed it at length and gave the arguments for both sides. I think from Arsenal's point of view, if you're looking at strengthening the squad, maybe goalkeeper wouldn't have been the top priority going into the summer window. Now, they've obviously made a decision, and Arteta decided that he wanted an equal or better goalkeeper than Aaron Ramsdale. I think when the deal was first mooted, I almost expected it to be more of something like what Roberto De Zerbi's doing at Brighton this season and rotating his goalkeepers in a 50-50 situation with Steele and Verbruggen at Brighton. But it seems like David Raya is the undisputed number one, and to go from Aaron Ramsdale's point of view, from being the number one, signing a new contract, to 3 months later not being part of the team, I think that's going to hurt him. But he will also think that he is capable and good enough to be the Arsenal number one, or a number one for most other teams in the Premier League. So I think it's a problem that has been created, and a story that's been created by Arsenal that maybe didn't need to be created this season. And also, in this transfer window, if we're talking about, well, Arsenal have kind of got issues with FFP. They don't want to, they might need to sell to bring players in, as Dan pointed out. Could they have spent that money elsewhere? They've got Raya in on a kind of buy now, pay later thing. Could that money have been ring fence for another position, like a striker in this transfer window, or another defender, centre-back, or a kind of centre-back, left-back, those are the kind of things that I think Arsenal supporters are going to be asking.
Do you think they could use Ramsdale as a vehicle to get in a striker, in that they'd probably get a decent fee for Ramsdale if they did decide to sell
Well,
him?
if they decided to sell him, it would have to be a big fee. But who's going to be spending big money in January?
That's exactly it. And also, when the team goes out and spends money on a spine or goes to improve their spine, there's normally the final pieces where you saw Liverpool do it when they brought in Alisson and they brought in Van Dijk. It was to go and compete for the titles or go and win the title. And so if you look at Arsenal, they've got to ask themselves the question, Arteta got to ask themselves the question, did they go and bring in Raya and Declan Rice to win the title this season? Was that the ambition in the pre-season? I think it was. And if these signings don't take Arsenal to the title, then there will be questions asked in the summer, because Ramsdale is a very, very popular member of the squad.
Dave, last summer they went into the market to try to sign someone who was going to make sure that Arsenal won the league. OK, they went in for Mykhailo Mudryk, they got Leandro Trossard, who certainly helped, but ultimately they came up just short. I know a striker wouldn't guarantee that they win the league this season either, but it does appear that that is the area that they need to strengthen. How important is it that they at least look to bring someone in who will, as much as you can possibly guarantee goals?
Yeah, I mean, look, Arsenal will be looking all the time to the different players on their database as to who they might go out and sign. But the obvious one is Ivan Toney. Now, Toney's been out for so long, I think people are kind of expecting him to come in and just start banging in goals every week. But it might not work out like that. He might need a little bit of time to get back in the groove. And there's no guarantee, even when you sign Ivan Toney and you drop 80 million plus or 100 million plus on Ivan Toney, that he's going to come in and fire you to the title. I think the other thing maybe for Arsenal, and maybe teams will consider this season, it might well be a low points total to win the title. So do they need to go out and splash 100 million for an extra few goals when Arsenal aren't out of it? They're still in the title race. And given it might be an 85, 80 plus point haul to win the title, it's not going to be a kind of Man City 90 plus kind of stratospheric number to win the title this year. Is that going to be a consideration for Arsenal this window, that they might not need to go out and spend loads of money and they can wait a few months extra?
Ivan Toney doesn't feel a very Arteta Arsenal-like signing to me. To drop the money that you've just stated on a 28-year-old, that doesn't feel like a very Arsenal thing to do in this day and age. Do you agree? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, potentially, but I think having that focal point up front for us is what they desperately need, and Toney is that profile of a focal point striker. So it may not be the case that he is the ideal number one Arteta-style player, but I think with everything else he does, he's a focal point, but also his link-up play is excellent, scores goals. Why couldn't he do it?